argument is that Carmelo already started this moving already. Like Carmelo already initiated this, provoked this interaction already. So that's my argument. That he's to blame.
It escalated it. You think?
No. He started it. The whole thing.
What?
Oh my goodness. Like, why is this so hard at all?
But how can he start something if someone's coming up and saying, "Hey man, I'm gonna need you to move from up under our tent"?
Exactly.
The guy was reportedly 90 pounds over his weight, right? It's raining outside.
Where are you getting this from?
It's in the police report. I put the link there.
In the police report, it says he's 90 pounds over his weight.
In the police report, it states what Carmelo's height and weight is. And in Austin's stats are online.
You're just adding all that. Okay.
I'm not adding. I thought he was 60 pounds over his weight.
But Don, it did sound like you were suggesting that particular verbiage was in the police report. And Samoa was, pointing directly to verbiage.
Carmelo's is there, but Austin's is online. I posted them a while ago.
In most legal cases, that's not going to fly anyway. Like height and weight and size differences isn't usually going to apply very much.
I don't know why they keep on mentioning this when the only person who had the knife.
No, it's not. Not when it's comes to men.
The reason why the threats canceled out is because somebody armed themselves. So, for example, Don, I'm 6'7", I'm 270 right now. You would say, oh, he's intimidating. But would you feel the same way with the bazooka? If you had a bazooka? Of course not. You'd be like, I hope this dude try to test me right now.
Yeah, but that means, yes, I would, because that I have a choice. Am I going to use that bazooka? And that's my responsibility.
But you would no longer be in fear because you have an option to terminate me.
The height and weight arguments in some cases might sway the opinions of juries and things like that, but it usually isn't going to, lead a prosecutor or a DA to assign or not assign certain charges.
Man, I can't believe that you used the shuffle thing. Stilgar, what the hell was that, bro?
I didn't shuffle shit, dog.
What the freak was that, bro?
Nothing. 2-7. That wasn't a shuffle.
That was a...
Did the other mods report that I gave you credit some more or no?
About what? Hung up?
Changing my mind.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, no.
You know what? Where's my
that?
So, you proved the actual mens rea of the entire case, of the entire action, right? The action was the stabbing, which is criminal in nature, but you have to prove the criminal intent. And for him to use provocation and provoking language is enough to prove the intent. That self-defense is not a viable option anymore. At all.
You don't know that there's a video and you haven't seen it.
It does not matter. If the transcript and the conversation is touch me and find out, that is provoking an action. That's no longer self-defense.
That's true.
That's looking for a response. And he was looking for a response. He's a kid. He fucked up. He's a hot-headed kid. He's an athlete.
So if I stand in front of you...
I played sports in high school. Wasn't good enough to play in college.
You guys got big dicks. That's great.
No, my dick's average.
If I stand in front of you and tell the screen for you,
my dick's average is
what the hell's going on, bro?
Here, put PTR.
No, my God.
No, he's right. He's right. That is in the eyes of the law provocation.
So if I stand in front of you and tell you to punch
Yes.
Punch me.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then I punch you.
Punch me and find out. Yeah.
Yes, and you punch me back and then claim self-defense. That wouldn't
No,
work.
I don't touch you and you punch me.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
think
then you punch me after.
just on the proportionality requirement for a self-defense claim in Texas, I think it falls flat. Because the force used has to be proportionate to the threat faced.
That's not entirely true.
I
though,
don't
'cause the thing
see
is,
You can
how
argue.
being pushed is proportional to being stabbed.
that's easy.
You
That's
can
an easy
argue
one.
losing control in the moment, right?
That can be argued.
There's a
Yeah.
passion claim.
So
But how?
I
But
still
hold on. But
subscribe to the
how? If
concept.
he's saying, basically, touch me and see what happens, and he has his hand in the bag.
It's just that
Because-
phrase that causes him to be guilty.
Well,
That's it.
and also to your point, shoving somebody that could be lethal as well. You can fall over, you can hit your head. You don't have to wait around for the person to rise to
It
that
has nothing
level
to do with
of
that.
proportionality. If you were on the street, right, all things being equal, you're on the street, you're on public property, there's no question about domain or authority or who can say who can leave or who can't leave, and the person is lawfully in possession of a weapon. If somebody comes up to me and starts shoving me up against a wall or pushing me or inhibiting my movement, that's not even just assault, that's battery, and you're creating a condition in which you can use force to defend yourself. Again, I think the problem here is he wasn't supposed to be in possession of that weapon on that property either, so that also precludes him from a self-defense claim. If you're in unlawful possession of the item that you're utilizing to defend yourself, you've already precluded yourself from.
I'm looking at this differently now. I used to think like, no, there's no way.
They kicked me. How annoying. I'll just have to go back with another burner account and wait the next hour out. So stupid. It's like, why bother kicking when you know there's a million burner accounts out there that just come right back in? It actually makes the game more fun. Where are you, my little friends? Chillism, 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 chillism.
That's wild. I don't get ghost notifications, but yeah, I do miss those just nice social rooms.
No, I need to go to bed, but I just want to check out one other thing with you, Geronimo. Just check this out, which is I really, my experience when I've come into Russ's spaces, both the two main spaces, have been that this is like almost a family. This has really become a family. Which I have, as I said before,
It's a family.
Respect for it. I mean, I think what it takes to create a space like that, to create that level of safety and, reciprocity and collaboration is just phenomenal. I'm interested in knowing whether you felt at all protective of that space tonight. That suddenly that was kind of your guys' space, and now other people were in there, sort of presenting some other stuff in kind of like in your family room. I don't know that I'm way too tired to try to articulate this, but I want to ask that of you.
I think I get the gist of what you're saying. If you take away one thing about the poetry community, is we welcome all. First-time writers. We have people in our community suffering from or coming from battling a stroke, and their language is delayed or more difficult than what it was before, and we take the time out and we listen to them intently. People from every walk of life in every area. The poetry community of all things on this app is extremely open to newcomers. We encourage people to write because we know, for one, we expanding our community and listening to people is our key component. So, and we know that listening can be healing to be heard, and we know that expressing yourself in a healthy manner is great. It's human. It's loving on someone without it being intrusive. Just to take the time out to listen. So no, we definitely are open to anybody and everybody. Just having, I always say, have respect for the space and understand we maintain a certain level in the spaces of decency, respect, and those type of things. Keep it a safe space, a truly safe space.
Well, yeah, I guess that's not really what I meant. I mean, my personal experience has been exactly what you're describing. Whenever I come to the space, I feel exactly what you're sharing. And that's, just so you know, that's my 40 years of my life has been spent doing exactly what you're talking about. That's what my work is, and that's what my life has been about. So that's why I respect what happens in there so much, and it feels very welcoming and very inclusive. So I hear you. What I was asking was whether you felt, or whether you, or if you feel any of the poets in that space felt like there was an intrusion on any level tonight of this space becoming something different, with new other people modding it with a different agenda than what normally happens in there. That was my question.
Oh, well, absolutely not, because that's like challenging a poet's mind to, like, how we get prompts.
Right.
So this is a prompt of a different order, a completely different order. So this may require you to click over into the other half of your hemisphere, not so more creative. Touch on some of the hard sciences or concrete ideas instead of being so abstract. It just you I don't know if you ever seen the movie Dodgeball, but they had a coach on there, and he said, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a dodgeball. He started throwing wrenches at the students. I think as far as poetry goes, we carry that philosophy, and so we think that anything that's different strengthens our pen and our ability to write and become better poets.
Cool. Oh, that's great. All right, well,
As long as it's not pro-Trump.
Go to sleep since I can't even talk. Thanks for the experience tonight, Brian.
You got it. Take care, Al.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Bye, Dr.
Al.
Good night.
Hey, guys. Lots of love.
Sleep well.
See you tomorrow.
Sweet dreams, princess.
How's everybody else doing this fine evening after that room?
Well, I was pretty much in and out. I wasn't sure if I was called on to do anything.
No, you're all good. It was very much a lot of people. It was a bigger room, so a lot of people were in and out. But yeah, I think it was just nice and chill and exploring this for the first time.
I wish I could. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was nothing relevant. It was today or yesterday.
The room just happened just before.
It was right now. Oh.
We're coming here. Yes, just like a couple minutes ago. You missed out by just a few minutes, Lisa.
And I was working all the time, so I didn't get a chance to really participate or soak in the room. But I definitely wanted to be there, to be in, to see what it was. Curiosity.
Didn't feel offended. I missed it.
It was audacious, to put it mildly.
All right.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I liked it. I think it turned out pretty good. I know this is very strange. My only criticism I've always had of the poetry community is that sometimes I'm worried that the criticisms won't be. It's so supportive that sometimes you don't get that honest. Like, you know what? No, that wasn't very good.
No.
You gotta do better.
No, that was pro-Trump. No way.
Was that good? Like, was that?
Was that too conservative?
From their country.
Yeah, so brother, here's what you're doing.
Not necessarily. You don't white people. I mean, don't they?
Understand black.
Caucasian, but they're not from the Caucasus.
Correct.
Yeah. So hold on. So we understand when you say black, you're talking about a term that's used in America that talks about African descendants of slavery. African descendants of slavery. That's what you're referring to as black. When we're talking
A lot
about
of them. A lot of them.
Yeah. So Africans that come over here, they're distinct because they still have their culture intact, right?
100%.
Right. So now that's what you're battling over. So not different from them genetically. We are kinda. I'll explain that a little bit later. But we're different from them culturally. They have a different cultural outlook. Their culture don't merge with American culture. We're like 70-80% single parent home, mainly females. They uphold the education differently than we do. They uphold the different moralities than we do. They adhere to a different type of Christianity than we do. So we're not the same culture, right? We're not. So. But that's the whole thing. We genetically, we come from West Coast of Africa, or Central Africa, or something.
Studio, man. So I don't agree with that. Go ahead.
Oh, my mic sound terrible.
Someone's trying to talk. Go ahead.
No, your mic is good. You're just a little.
I got hot ceilings on
A little too close.
All right,
to the
so
mic.
how's it now?
Much better, brother.
All right, so yeah,
And you're cooking, by the way, bro.
Yeah, that's the truth. So with the average African American male, 2/3 of us is going to test E1B1A. Another third of us is going to be something else. Why? Because it's America. We admix, you know what I'm saying? Somebody could have had like,
That's the problem right there.
Well, it's not a problem. It's America. Like the same thing could be said of any race. Any race has that admixture percentage.
Can't find chillers.
Japanese Americans who come over here, or Japanese that come over here, and they become Japanese American. That girl may marry a black man, or that man may marry a black girl, or they might marry a white man or white woman. You know what I'm saying? That's just America. You go to college, you meet somebody, nobody really cares about race at that point.
I mean, I hear you, right? And I'm glad you brought up the DNA thing, because it's true that they have a correlation. But this is the biggest problem. When it comes to the books, the records, the family stories, we do not have any lineage from Africa at all.
What?
You don't have any. There's no black person that can go from this time back to Africa. Not one black person.
I can't.
Sure there is, bro.
Hold on a second.
Sure there is.
Even so, why do you not like Africans? Why are you racist?
So first of all, I'm not. It's not
Racist!
for Africans. I'm saying the slave trade story that they gave us is not true.
Okay, bro. Let me ask you a question, man. Okay. You ever heard of a book called A Story of a Negro?
Yes.
Of a Negro? Okay, who wrote that book?
I'm not sure of the author, but I know what you're talking about.
Booker T. Washington wrote that book.
Okay. All right. What were you saying about that?
Somebody muted me up. So I said, so that's not true what you just said. You said we cannot trace ourselves back. Bro, you do know that in Louisiana, Gullah Geechee, voodoo, when we get the whole thing about what Southern blacks practice, that come from African voodoo. Like the stuff they practice in the Caribbean, that came from African voodoo.
So tell me this: what was our names and our language before they stopped us from reading and talking?
It's good. It depends, because even when you go back to West Africa, check this out. You're not gonna have a consistency there either. You know why? Because you had Islam, you had Mohammedans that came in, you had Christianity that came in. If you were still in West Africa, the language you probably be speaking is a combination of your native language and a little bit of Arabic. That's a fact. Because
That's
Islam came through. Yeah, that came through 700 years before the transatlantic slave trade. And the trans-Saharan slave trade was already there 1,400 years.
Thank you, because the Arabs were actually the root of the slave trade, because they were enslaving Africans a long part of history, and they don't talk about that.
That's a fact. But here's the problem we're going to have. There's a geographer by the name of Al Yacobi. He studied something what's called the Diwans, which is an Arabic chronicle of what the people actually believe there. The Hausa states, this of the Yoruba people, they already testified they've been there before the Arabs came there. So our DNA is actually older there than before the Arabs came.
So when you say our DNA, you talking about like what connects like the Igbo tribe or like
E1B1A comes from the highlands of Ethiopia. That's EV38. That's the
highlands of Ethiopia.
Y chromosome that passes from father to son to father to son.
Perfect. So what is that gap that they don't tell us about? Remember we said like the two-thirds.
It's a gap between the Ethiopian highlands that go straight to Wakanda.
Males are E1B1A. That's the West Sub-Saharan Africa. One third of African American males are something else because of slavery and or your mom married a white man, or your great grandma married a white man.
But they don't know, or they say they don't know that 1/3 though, right?
What are you talking about? They don't know. No, they do know. If you go and get a genetic test, a real one, you can find out what your Y haplogroup is.
Correct. But all I'm saying is I know what you're talking about, right? So we have A1B1A, which is basically us. But there's another one that they don't talk about.
No, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. When I say E1B1A, that's the male Y haplogroup from Africa. Let's say back in the day, your mom, or not your mom, but your dad's grandmother was raped by a white man on a plantation.
All right.
Now you a black man in America, but guess what haplogroup you got? You got a white R, or you got an R1B or some other type of haplogroup that comes from Europe. You a black American, all that. But going back a couple generations, you could have a great-great-grandfather that's white.
So let me ask you this, though. What about the natural aboriginal black Indians, which I know you know there were black Indians that were kept out and kicked out, correct?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
So listen, it's called the triangle slave trade. Listen, everybody knows that term. Triangle slave trade. You know why? West Africa to America, and Americans, they went where? They went right back up to the east.
That's actually not true because
my goodness.
So what makes them black,
Well, here's the thing. So that's not true. So here's the thing. Number one, 85% of the world is melanated. Get that right there. So there is no special type of black. If you go to Southeast Asia, they're dark skinned. If you go to Africa, obviously they're dark skinned. If you go to Arabia, they're dark skinned. If you go to the natives in America, they were dark skinned. So it's nothing special about black. Now here's another fact. If you look at Indians, native Indians, guess what? They lack, as well as the Asians that come from that Bering Strait, they lack a gene that can break down alcohol. Africans and Europeans can. So they won't be us if they can't break down alcohol the way we can break down alcohol. And they can break down lactose a different way we break down lactose. So
Lactose and alcohol is
You said I was wrong about the triangle slave trade, though.
No. You're wrong saying that there was some black people removed from America that were natives and brought over there. That's not true. I will say that there were melanated people, but melanated people don't mean they black. They black like me and you. That's crazy.
So what I'm saying is that you have the transversal triangle, right? You know how we say transatlantic, just from east to west?
So let me tell you why that's not likely. Because did you know that slavery in America didn't get started till 1619? So early on, the slaves actually came to Central and South America. That's why Brazil is 50-something% black. Now, later on in the slave trade, black slaves came here. Check this out. They were indentured servants.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. So one of the first black servants that came here by employment. They didn't come here by slave trade the way that they talk about the Central America and all that. Because America didn't have no product. There was sugar cane. There was stuff like that.
We did have product. We did.
No. That was later when corn got popular and then cotton got popular. That was later in the slave trade, bro. Only 1 million, little over 1 million slaves came to America.
If that's true, there's too many. How do you say? We have corn on the east, like in Africa and like all this stuff. And we have cocaine over the other side of the world. We have too many things that are only grown here that are on that side. Listen, this is a fact.
Bro, listen. We want listen. Okay, so you're talking about coca leaves and stuff, man. You're talking about Central South America, bro. You're a Black American. That means your family came here after 1700s.
So that's it. What I'm saying is that's your story, and it's fine. I'm saying that all the research that I've done makes that not true. Because listen, first of all, 5% of the slave trade went to America. Only 5%.
That's what I'm saying. It was later too. It was much later.
Well,
it was later, bro. Look it up. The late in the transatlantic slave trade was when we got here in America. Before that, Blacks were hitting Central and South America way before we even got here to America.
And the Americans, though, so if you know they were hitting it like hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus, right? What makes you think they were not hitting it up here?
What are you talking about? Okay, bro. Okay, you mixing stuff up.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, sure.
What makes you Black? What do you think makes you Black? What feature or whatever about your culture makes you Black?
I would say culturally wise, it would be the soul food, it would be the afro, it would be the music, and it would be the dance.
So how did we define Black? How is Black defined?
I just did.
Anyone who did that? Anyone who did that was Black.
Yes, because it only starts and comes from here. Absolutely. Like rap. Rap is only from here.
Gilly too. So
okay, so the Native Americans are also Black?
Yes, they were Black Native Americans.
All of them were Black.
No, they were not. So listen, everybody knows they were Black Native Americans.
No, they were Black.
Let him go with this fur. I'm just trying to get an understanding because I know these people exist, but I've never actually talked to one. I'm a bit intrigued.
Yeah, but don't you think it's better when two Black Americans have that conversation amongst themselves rather than, we come in the middle as Africans?
No.
I'm just trying to talk to him.
Let's go. Let's all talk.
If he's okay with talking to me, then I don't see the issue.
100%.
If Brian doesn't want to talk to me as a African, someone from Africa, that's fine. I'll lay back. But
Sister, please, let's talk. Absolutely.
Okay, so if you're saying that not all the Native Americans were Black, then what makes you Black?
So first of all, there was a light skin, the straight hair, the fair skinned Indians that you see today. To me, they look like Mexicans mixed with Asians, without the racism. And we look like we look today. Mind you, we mixed with a lot of things, but we still look the same way today. Small noses, afro hair, bronze skin.
So where do you think you got those features from if you're living in the same country and you come from the same place?
Well, I truly believe that we've been mixing for a long time, like everybody has. But I think we keep our original detailed features.
Okay.
Like, I would say this, like when you see Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Somalian, they're not from West Africa. Would you agree with that?
Right.
And that's all I'm saying is that there's certain things that between the ages, it stays consistent for whatever reason.
Bro, man,
do you think that maybe at some point you mixed with Africans?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, absolutely.
So this is what gives you your Black features.
Nah, man, come on, bro. You lying through your teeth, bro. Come on, bro. That ain't even true what you just said.
What part of what I said wasn't true?
Okay, you putting it as if that we were Native Americans that were Black, and we mixed in with some of the slaves that came over here from Africa, and we became a unique type of people. You trying to make African Americans distinct by them somehow the story that we were here natively before the slave trade began. That's false, bro. You grabbed it off of YouTube somewhere. That's not true.
So the fact
here's why. Because, okay, I'm gonna just tell you straight up. Okay, Native Americans, what were their haplogroups?
I don't know. They don't tell us about their haplogroups.
Nah, bro. Yes, they do, bro.
So what is it?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you. So, they're Q. Look it up. They're Q3. And they're Q3, they're Q3A, and they're C3. Now, this haplogroup spreads all throughout the Bering Strait, all of America, really ancient, down into South America. The Taino Indians, all that stuff. No, they all are Q. And here's the thing: they have a trouble in their genome where they can't digest certain foods. We can, right? They don't make no. They don't have sickle cell anemia, bro. Listen, I'm trying to tell you. So now, when we're talking about Black Americans, here's what we are. This is what a Black American is. I'm gonna just lay it out right here. Black American is an amalgamation of blacks from all over the continent of Africa. They got swept up into a unified slave trade, and we defined a new culture there. We're mixed because we mixed in with Jews, we mixed in with Asians, we mixed in with white people, all this stuff. And when we mixed in with those people, we became a unique group of people with our own.
The super now.
That's what the Black culture is. It's not something about we was natives here with straight hair and all this stuff like you're talking about. We don't have Q. We don't pass out when we drink alcohol. When we develop fat, we develop it subcutaneously. We don't develop it within the rib cage like most Asians do. It just don't fit genetically, bro. You can't just slide that in here, especially when people been reading about this. That don't work.
All right, so let me say this. Hold on. He already debunked you, bro. Let me say this right here. So I just got in real quick, and I read the topic. Why do black people blame white people for everything? So my take is this, right? So European colonialism happened throughout the whole world, not just the Americas. And by Americas, I mean America, South America, both continents. It happened throughout the whole world. Why don't the Indians, the Saudis, the Arabs, the Africans, they don't blame the white man for everything. They do what they have to do, and they've been got themselves out the mud.
Thank you.
The reason why Black Americans always blame, okay, racism happened, 400, 500 years? Still, colonialism happened throughout the world more than that.
Hold on, did you say South Africans don't blame?
I never once said South
No, I'm
Africa.
asking you, Leon. Did you just say that South Africans don't blame white people?
Oh, before he
once
goes
said
very
South
off,
Africa.
because I didn't.
I'm asking, bro.
I did not say South Africa. I said Africans. I never said South Africa.
South Africans are very
here we go again.
white-loving, so yeah,
Hiding
don't
behind the
think they
moniker
blame
of
white
Africa.
people.
So are you saying that Africans don't blame white folks for
Oh, I mean, some
of their
do.
misery?
They still got the
Hey,
foot on their
Hills,
necks.
I'm not talking to you, ma'am. I'm talking
You
to
said
Leon.
Africans. I am
All right,
African.
let me just
I
finish
mean,
my
is this a
point.
one-person conversation? If it is, take it somewhere else.
No, I mean, if I'm addressing someone,
It's
and then
I didn't
you're
get to
coming
finish
from
the
the side.
conversation that was
I have
happening
an
before
issue with
Leon
everything
came
I
in.
say. Get a fucking
Hold on,
grip,
wait.
dude.
I didn't get
Let's
to
all
finish
take a
what.
breath. Let's all take a breath. Let's all take a breath.
One mic on Leon, man.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just finish what I was saying. So European colonialism happened throughout the whole world, right?
No.
And everybody, it really did. But let me finish what I was saying. It happened throughout everywhere, and they all experienced that. They all dealt with that. And they all ended up, even though they had the same trauma as quote-unquote Black Americans had that same trauma, they all went their own little route when it comes towards how they dealt with that trauma, right?
No, absolutely not.
All right, so you'll have time to rebut. You'll have time to rebut. What I'm saying is nobody's ever different. We're all the same. It is all about how you handle things differently and how you deal with your own little situation. All right, go ahead, man.
Where are you from, brother? Real quick.
I'm from New York, New Jersey, bro.
What's your lineage? Like, where's your family from?
My family's from Africa.
Okay, what I'm saying is that were you ever held as slaves and as servitude, like Black Americans were?
My ancestors, no, they were never.
And to me, colonization means they move in and they take over. It goes from this culture to that culture. Did they colonize your country, or did they do like the Romans, like conquer you but let you keep your culture?
Hey, right. Hey, hold up, Leon. I know I know you're lying, bro. And this is what
Bull,
you
let
do,
him
right?
answer the joint, man.
No, but he's not answering you, and you're not peeping game.
Let him talk.
Okay, have at it, Hoss, but don't cry later when you get tricked, and then it's all Africans, right? Because I'm African, and I'm trying to help you out
but
here.
now let him talk.
Yeah, but don't cry later.
Behind the moniker of Africanism, bully.
Go ahead, Leon.
Hey,
What you got?
I know where you're
On the
from,
robot.
Hills. Watch yourself.
Cool. Come get me.
Leon, you gonna rebuttal or you ain't got nothing?
I was waiting for everybody to start talking.
No, you gotta just talk in here.
Oh, okay, all right. So Repeat your question, bro.
What I was saying is that Black America, we have what is called, cattle slavery, the hard slavery, versus Africans. We both got taken over by Europeans, quote unquote. We got colonized, took us over, moved in, changed the culture, changed the ethnicity. Africans, they didn't change the ethnicity, change the culture. They ruled it in the shadows. Would you disagree or agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Now, what is the difference between, mind you, I agree with you where we both got messed up, basically, 100%. But what is the biggest difference in
Hey, Kevin, you gotta stop this, bro.
Yo, bull, man. Hey, bull, if you don't answer the question, then you answer it.
Yeah, it's bullshit, bro. First of all, one point of correction.
No.
His people.
Do you agree or disagree with what I said?
I disagree, bro.
With
Africa
what part?
is not a monolith, man.
I didn't say that. I said we were in cattle slavery.
You're framing everything in absolutes, which is hilarious, bro.
No, you don't answer any questions.
And he's gonna follow that moniker because he's agenda driven. His people.
So hold on.
Can I say this?
Wait, hold on.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Go ahead, Leon.
Let me ask Bull something. Bull, who are my people? You're talking about his people. Who are my people? What do you mean by that?
He's not
Who
African.
are my people? As if but he's talking like he knows the nigga. Like who's my people?
That's what I'm saying. He's trolling. That's why I try to just
he on
talk
some
over.
bullshit, bro.
Yeah, that's obvious. But what would you say, Leon, to that? What would you say, Leon, to that point? So basically,
you're gonna have to repeat the point again, bro.
When it comes to the difference between the peoples, we both got messed up by the European and their nation to this day. But one took cattle slavery, hard slavery, moved in and took over, where they became the main population. Different from what they did in like the central part of Africa, where they are basically leaving those people there. They all look the same, but they're ruling it by taking their resources, et cetera, et cetera. What would you say is the biggest effect, like the biggest effect difference from that?
The biggest effect, what I would say, was the direct response and effect that happened with Party A and Party B. Party A is the American slave trade and how they dealt with them and how they did the peoples. Very grimy, very dirty, very disrespectful. Basically, you wasn't even a human. They annihilated the fuck out of that whole population right there. And with Party B, party number 2 being the Africans or the other colonial countries that they ended up taking over, how they did them. They did them by
systematic.
Yeah, systematic. Yeah, so
They changed the language. They changed the tribalism. They changed a lot of stuff every single 5 to 10 years.
Hi, moderators, put me in the queue. This time travel machine is fucking fascinating. What year are we in now?
How many African countries currently? And first of all, I want to make this very clear to everybody in the room and beyond. I want to make this very clear. Africa is a continent. It is not a country. 100%. It's a continent.
It's a country.
What do you mean by
continent?
It's a country. It's a big country. Damn, he had to clear that up for us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it might be time for me to close my eyes.
All right, good night. Get off Clubhouse.
Good morning.
So when she leave, they know we go.
Like, I don't want to have any kids here because the societal culture is so trash, right? Like, there's no... Like, the problem is like, there is no upper class culture there, right? Everybody aspires to be like the worst of the worst here. Like, where I live right now is the ice capital of the world, right? Just think about that for a minute. Interesting.
Well, if you were a true believer, you would have kids regardless of where you're at, because you'd want to be fruitful and multiply.
No, you can't, bro, because you're not even you can't even afford a house. How are you gonna have your children buying anything? They're gonna move away anyways, right? This is not Israel. This is why I think Israel does look good. Actually look up to Israel, the Zionist ideology. Like, no matter what you say about the Jewish people, whatever, but like what they're doing with like the whole settler, plans makes sense because they're literally thinking about the long term, strategy of survival of the Jewish people in Israel, right? The settlements make sense, right? If you look at the construction of housing in Western country, free markets, they don't make sense. Like, you're not living with your community, you're living with a stranger next door. Like, my next door neighbor is a Hindu, right? I'm a Christian, but what the fuck do I have in common with him? Like, he worship cows. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, but in America, people live their whole lives and never even say hello to the neighbor. They have no idea who they are. Once you're inside your house, you don't even know who you're living next to. You could have a neighbor in an apartment complex, live there 20 years and never even say hello to the person. So there is no community. It's like that's
but
gone.
in the 1950s and 60s, when you had immigration coming in, the whites fled the city because they didn't want to deal with rising crime, right? Mass migrations of immigrants. And back then in the 50s and 60s, even the whites, right, if you think about it, they would say hello, but that's all they would do. That's a problem, right? And I'm not saying all whites. There were still associations, right? Like Rotary clubs and book clubs, sure. But like, you didn't have any culture besides like money and freedom to really talk about. So like the small talk of America, where you're like, oh, it's a beautiful day. How are you doing? But don't tell me really how you're doing because I just want you to say fine, thank you. That started happening in America in the 1700s, 1800s because all the Protestant denominations didn't want to impose didn't want to offend the other Christians so that they could have more future customs, right? So actually, what you're complaining about is something that came about as a result of multi-Protestant denominational America, where, as far as they were concerned, they were different religions because they disagreed on fundamental ideas. And because of that, we saw what would happen before Islam and all these other religions come into America. The Protestants already screwed themselves by saying, we want to have a non-denominational, non-religious society, but we want everyone to have their own church, right, or their own town church. But we don't want there to be like a church institution, and we can't because we all disagree. It was never supposed to be unity in America, unfortunately. The freedom of religion and the freedom of all the Protestant 4,000 folks in America over the last 2 years shows you that America was supposed to be the land of infinite experimentation, not of unity, not of solidarity, not of
gay lords. Is a Chicago street gang, which was most active.
And it's not that the founding fathers did this on purpose, trying to destroy this country. They thought they were saving this country by being anti-Catholic, anti-European, anti-Christian.
That's my very first
but actually instead, they created a culture and political norm that would deconstruct Christianity and Protestant values over time, where you could not enforce your values onto your community or your society, except political activists can, political ideologues can, but Christians can't. So by Christians not being able to bring their Christian faith into politics, it was preordained that Christians would lose political power in America. And you can kind of see this happening in the 1900s, where all the Christian elites of America, who used to be the patrician class, are shoved out by the middle class and FDR's intellectual academic class. And now all the best families of America, whose kids were trained to be bureaucrats, judges, lawyers, etc., they went into the free market. Right? So the Christians had to leave government. But then Marxists and leftists and liberals can push their ideas. Right? So America as a country country where Protestant Christians are the only ones not pushing their values into the public space. On every other Peter Pan, false preacher, politicians, pundits, professors, performers, peddlers who sell their wares, they have a free front. They can push their ideas spiritual. They can make ads, sexualizing women to your children, and that's the free front. But Christian values in the public space, no. Within institutions, no. Running in Congress as a Christian, open Christian who wants to push Christian values into their state or county, that's illegal. Not illegal, but Paula. So, actually, like Christian Protestant liberalism is a deconstructive, deracinating force that destroys your own religion over time because you don't want to offend them, because you want to make more money and have more customers. In other words, Protestant liberals have traded God for money, God for equality, God for tolerance. And their new Protestant religion over the last 100 years is equality, tolerance, and acceptance. Because that's how you make the most money. If you do trade with every country in the world without war, a free trade a trade empire, right? A trade federation. Well, we can end all wars. That's what Wilson said. If we make the UN and the strongest countries around the world enforce it, we can literally create a free trade system and end all wars in the future by everybody being dependent on it. Is that what happened in the last 100 years? No, we had World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnamese War, and then the countless other wars in other parts of our empire. So, to me, liberalism and Protestantism are the most deconstructive forces that led to Marxism. What Mao had to use state force to destroy your culture, destroy your tradition, destroy your habits and how you interacted with other people, your social norms, and culture, customs, rituals. Americans have destroyed their own cultures and rituals every generation by malparticipation.
So what is it about Protestantism then? Is it because it's like anti-collective?
Yes, it's anti-authority, anti-Catholic Church, anti-Anglicanism. So a lot of these old Anabaptists, if you read about the Anabaptists, they sound like trash talk progressive. We want egalitarianism, we want communes where everyone's equal, everybody has the same amount of land. They're literally proto-communists. And then if you read the Quakers, they're hyper-egalitarians too. Men and women are equal, there should be no priest, there should be no sacraments, there should be no rituals or customs that are sacred. And they used to literally cover themselves in shit and go into other Protestant churches to make fun of them. They were some of the most radical out of all the other Protestants. And they're like, what the fuck are you guys?
You said the Anabaptists?
No, these are the Quakers I'm talking about now, both of them. The Quakers hated all authority, all hierarchy, so they are literally the Quakers won out in culture in America. It wasn't the Puritans who won out. It wasn't the Southern feudalist slave owners who won out. It was actually Quaker culture of live and let live and make as much money as possible. And the Dutch were similar in that. The Dutch Protestants and the Quakers are similar but different. They're both deconstructed. Look at the Dutch mercantilist empire. They wanted to bring immigrants from all over Europe, even North Africa. They had Muslim farmers in Dutch New York and in the Netherlands. Okay? They wanted everyone from around the world to come to the Netherlands and to produce cattle. Okay? All the problems that we're dealing with, they did it first. They had hypercapitalism, they had the free market, they had Wall Street, they had inflations, they had bubbles, they had the tulip currency, bubble pop. All the things that we're going through, they went through first. They had transnational corporations in the Dutch West and East trading companies who had so much authority that they could wage war if they wanted. And the Dutch backed them. The Dutch government.
You know what I don't understand is like, why isn't there a country that has ever been able to essentially create just a banking class where it's nothing but banking? Like
That's what the Jews kind of did, though, in the Middle Ages, right? That was their role, because the Catholics hated usury.
But
Right?
what I'm saying is the collective intelligence of the herd or the population of
So
said
I'll tell
country.
you why, though. These merchant societies who are solely merchant and non-religious, and like economic free trade zones, or a collective of merchants from different countries in Europe will never work, because as soon as they get attacked, there's nothing deeper unifying them and keeping them together and expensive that you have to wait until you're 28 to get married. Whereas traditionally, they would get married at 16 to 21, right? See that difference? So same thing happened in America, right? You have to be 30, 35 to get married as a man now, at least, right? And we've passed that point. So now why haven't we had a revolt in America? Because they've provided enough luxuries and amenities for the average guy to be okay with. Because they get infinite porn, infinite dopamine, infinite entertainment, consumption, buying gadgets. Every new gadget comes out, ooh, shiny toy, new Lego set, oh, collectible this, collectible that. They've turned men into what women were in the 70s and 80s, which were consumers, buying like K-pop posters and J-pop posters and all the posters for every Backstreet Boys and the sticker set for every Backstreet Boys and, concert tickets, and like we've basically become that in the West for young men. So they've actually done everything right that would prevent a reaction from the lower working class men of your society, actually. So because they've hit all the conditions and like free porn or prostitutes and OnlyFans, like the men's dopamine, all the dopamine things are being hit so that they don't revolt.
Is it cultural though? I mean, I can go to I don't know. It's just always an index within every culture still, no matter.
No. Historically, yes, before like technology, but in the last 20, 30 years, I can't even see any men rebelling in the Middle East right now. Where's the rebellion? Where's the rebellion in Korea? Where's the rebellion in all these countries that are ossified? They don't. They can't. They won't. It's weird. I agree with you, but I think like democracy and civic nationalism does a really good job in suppressing. Unless if you're able to maintain it, and brainwashing through schools does a really good job of feminizing men too. So that was another part of the process that led to this. I agree. That culture that you're speaking about is just bureaucratic propaganda at school. Right?
I don't know. I really do philosophically believe that there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe. Like, yes, we may complain, but still there's like great equilibrium. The fact that we're like safe in our homes in America having this conversation while we're $40 trillion in debt and there's hasn't been a nuclear bomb since World War II, in an act of war. I don't know. There seems to be a great. I think it's like kabuki theater. Like all this.
Wait, but don't you also think that China and America, for the first time in like 70 years, might actually start pointing weapons at each other, though?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think China and the
I'm
U.S.
not saying that
will go to
it'll
war.
happen, but I think we are getting to a place where that might be an outcome because of the trade wars. And trade wars can lead to real war.
I don't think with China. I think China is smart enough to always just do a proxy war, and America is smart enough to also just see proxy wars prevent.
But the proxy war is literally Taiwan, though. Their only proxy war is Taiwan and Hong Kong.
No, it's manufacturing. All the Chinese weapons end up wherever the proxy war is. It doesn't matter where it's at.
Yes, right. But regardless, we're losing out in the long term if we continue this relationship in the same way we've done with China, with like free trade for them and not for us. Like they're gonna be able to dominate us.
I know, but they are already opening up. They're already opening up to Western markets, meaning Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, all the big financial service corporations are already making inroads.
It's already right, but at this moment, right now, they have the military superiority, bro.
I'm just saying, if China.
They can make thousands of drones a year, right? And imagine you have a $20 billion carrier, and the Chinese, way more than that, but whatever. But imagine that they send even like 40,000 drones because they each cost like $1,000 or $500. That's worth it to destroy one carrier. Even sending 50,000 drones is worth it to destroy one carrier, because the carrier is worth like $2 billion, bro. So if you
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, exactly. Hold up. We're military fucked right now. Like, this is the equivalent of like World War War I, where you had cavalry forces running down the field while the other side has fucking tanks and shit, and running over your trenches.
That was the Polish against the Germans. The Polish still had cavalry and still believed that they could win against the tanks.
Bro, you are investing in $2 billion carriers and $200 million destroyers that can be destroyed by $2 million of drones.
No, I agree. I
I
think
don't think you understand how bad of a situation we're in, because right now China is realizing that they could kind of take over Taiwan and get away with it, right? Because they're not going to use nukes. America's not going to use nukes, and then they don't have any others. They haven't created a NATO of East Asia, which they should have done over the last 30 years. They should have, but then that would have insulted China. So if they did it, it would have been. The situation's fucked up, and basically, right? No matter what they do at this point, they're fucked. Either they destroy the relationship with China, and now America has no production, and now we're fucked and have to spend the next 30 years to figure out production in Mexico or America or some other place, maybe Canada, right? And we're going to destroy the economy that we have in America, basically, where the middle class, the working class will not be able to go out and eat. The lower middle class won't be able to go out and eat anymore, except once a year again, like back in the 50s. That's literally where we're heading back to. The days of the working class being able to eat McDonald's 3 times a day and not cook is gone. And that is literally how the working class in America have run for the last 20, 30 years. Literally, the dollar menu of McDonald's literally kept the workers fed. Right? So now that McDonald's is $15.
But Gio, what is the intent of China? Meaning, how advanced is their psychological IQ to know that war is probably not actually what they want?
Long term. No, it's not. But they also realize that America is reacting whether they like it or not. Right? The American voters are reacting. The American leaders are reacting. They're saying, wait a minute, COVID showed them that they have no operational security. They have no offset. They have no logistical security. They have no production security. And because of that, the national security is at risk now.
Yeah, but to say that COVID...
Hold up. What are you going to do? One last thing. What are you going to do when Russia just dominates the North Sea, right? And the Arctic Circle? Because America's been paying attention to Afghanistan instead of the Arctic in the next 20 years.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't even get the oil out of China, out of California. Why do we care about the oil up there?
No, because it's oil. It's being petrodollar. It's petrodollar. Oh my God, that's petrodollar. First of all, second of all, why would you want Russian nuclear submarines secretly above Canada and Greenland? Why would you be okay with that?
I mean, nobody is, but it's a barren fucking wasteland.
Hold up, just real quick. Isn't that what we went through the Cuban Missile Crisis over? Where the Soviets were putting fucking missiles that could hit America and Cuba?
Yeah, but that's in our belly.
Another Cuban Missile Crisis?
You're talking about an inoperable area full of fucking icebergs.
There's massive around resources. Hold on. The Arctic has a massive amount of natural gas, oil, and other minerals which America needs for military manufacturing.
I know, but extraction is very difficult. It's not easy to operate up there.
But this is critical. This is like buying Alaska, right? Who knows, 100 years down the line, you have the technology to actually do that shit, right?
I know, but domestically in the United States, we have enough oil and gas for hundreds of years. It's a huge country.
No, it's not what we have. It's what they get access to. What are you not understanding about this?
I'm just saying that the extraction up there is so difficult. It's kind of a pointless conversation.
It doesn't matter. Russia needs other places to get oil. Did you know, due to the Holly Smooth tariffs of the 1900s, Japan was one of the biggest importers of American oil and gas. Only 90% of their oil and gas came from the United States in the 1880s, 1900s, sorry. So when the Holly Smooth tariff passed, and they said we're not selling oil and gas to the rest of the world anymore, Japan was one of the worst affected by it. Now, what happened as a result of that? Pearl Harbor. They were pissed that you're not selling them oil.
Listen, the only point I wanted...
Southeast Asia and the Philippines.
Only...
And in America, gunboat diplomacy stopped them from getting the oil in Philippines. The Japanese have no access to oil, right? Like, what you have to realize is that Russia, for them to function, they have to get those oil fields. So either you're going to give it to them and set up a scenario where in the next 80 to 100 years, they're going to be stronger, or you can take it over and prevent them from taking it so that there is no alternative for the Russians for extra oil and access to oil in the future. Like, this isn't just, oh, we have enough oil, so we should let Russia take over every oil field around the world. This basic geopolitics.
Okay, but this is. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. This is the only point I wanted to make about China and their philosophy or psychology. If you read the Tao Te Ching book, which is, you know, the second most popular book ever produced in human history. Bro. The point is, well, this is the now is all important. You can hold on. You can take us on the time machine trip in this room all night long. It's fine. Just give me 10 seconds. The point is, in the Tao Te Ching, it's stressing the importance of avoiding conflict, and so therefore the Chinese are like maximum risk adverse individuals when it comes to war. And when you watch the videos of the soldiers on the new aircraft carrier, etc., you're talking about soldiers who I don't think are really like bloodthirsty, world conquering, dominating people. You're talking about like a very educated people. They're not like that. I don't think that they're essentially conquering people.
We were talking about Russians, not Chinese. Hold up. First of all, we were talking about the Russians with the North Sea, not the Chinese.
No, prior to that, we were talking about the Chinese. Prior to the Russians, we were talking about the Chinese conflict and so on.
No. You're taking words out of my mouth.
I'm not.
When I was talking about, hold up, let me book that. When I was talking about Chinese military capacity, it wasn't to invade you dumb fuck. Otherwise, I would have talked about battleships and cruisers. What I said was defensive drones, you dumbass, right? So if you'd actually listened to the words that I was saying instead of what you thought I was saying and overlaying that over what I
know, but defensive drones are offensive drones.
Hold up, please. You would have realized that when I talk about drones and Taiwan and Hong Kong, I'm literally talking about them taking those steps. So I'm talking about the warfare that they would have to pursue in the China Strait, right? Taiwan Strait and South China. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about China invading the world or anything like that. I'm talking about, will they take over Taiwan to shove it in the U.S.'s face and say, now what, bitch? We got Taiwan's chip manufacturer, right? That would be an entire geopolitical change in everything, right?
But that would mean they'd have to kill thousands and thousands of Taiwanese. I don't think they want to do that.
Japan, right, but I'm not saying that they have to violently take it over. They could just take it over politically. Then what? What if functionally China rules over Taiwan behind it?
But is that already happening though?
Is that any different? Correct, it is. That's what I'm trying to point out anyway. Whether violently or not this is happening is what I'm trying to explain to you, but you're just hearing one side of it. Is, you know, you can't even engage or talk about this topic without, you know, casting your own, you know, ideas to what you want me to do.
Well, welcome to communication. It's all a projection.
No, because you're not asking questions. You're like implying that I'm saying something else and then changing the topic to like China invading the world. I never made any claim or any ideas. I didn't praise China for making like cruisers and fucking destroyers. I didn't say any of that.
Okay, let's just I just want to share some of my points on this question, right? And Wisdom was asking about if China is going to take over the world, right? Now, I guess from a Chinese perspective, Wisdom is correct, right? China's imperative is to avert any wars immediately, right? And we can see that right now America is also at its weakest point, militarily speaking, right, for the last 30 years. So we can say that for sure that, as well as I agree with Gio, is that China is already influencing Taiwan in a way that without military intervention, China will capture it one way or another anyways, economically or politically, right? It's gonna take a bit longer, but it will happen gradually. I mean, but I think you should worry more about America, right? At this point, I think Americans really worry about the future of America, where you guys have $36 trillion in debt. You guys are paying over $1 trillion in interest, right? And this, at the end of this year, you guys are gonna pay over $1 trillion interest already, right? And next year it will be way way more, right? And that's the problem that you gotta face, is that how are you gonna get money, right? How are you gonna reset the debt? How are you gonna restructure the debt problem? Now, Trump, I guess what Trump is gonna do is what he did to his business. He's gonna go bankruptcy. He's gonna, pretty much lay off the debt, right? And but that's not possible, bro. That's not possible. If America does that, like, America will be totally relevant in the world stage. You guys will be literally in chaos, right? How are you gonna get all these manufacturing done before then? Like Gio said, right? Imagine like America goes to civil war.
Daniel, do you know what the China national debt is?
Most of China debt is internal. It's not public.
I know, but if you go to deckclock.org, usdeckclock.org, the Chinese...
You're looking at the GDP per capita of what?
No, I'm just looking at national debt. Anyways, I'm just trying to say that at this point, the national debt of China is almost half of that of the United States, which is wild.
But it's internal debt.
Yeah, the difference is all that American dollars are going back to China, so they're still winning. Like, if I was China, I would spend every dollar of American consumption in China to buy precious gold and metals, so that if the dollar collapses, I'm still fucking good. All right? Like, look, even if I was an American, I'd be doing this shit. If I was an American and I was like, wow, these people really trust this shitty dollar, right? If things started looking bad, I would start using all the dollars that I have to buy as much resources and valued goods as much as possible. I would literally buy out entire industries of goods that are necessary for survival. I would literally trade our American dollars for as much gold, as much minerals that I can find around the world. So in case something happens, right, I'm going to have a monopoly on that. And China and America are so stupid. Neither of them thinks this way, and both of them are still spending money into, like, whatever, consumption alone, right? So this is how stupid both of these societies are. See, if I was in charge, if I saw the American dollar going down, I would secretly start buying Bitcoin. I would secretly start buying gold. I would secretly start buying every precious metal that I can buy in the entire industry of. This is how you play the game. Like, the rest of these people are retarded. Absolutely retarded. And they still think that they're going to have the same economic system in 50 years or 100 years.
They know that. But let me tell you why they don't do that.
15, 20 years. No, I hear you. But unfortunately, this is the situation we're in. And whoever does this first is actually going to win in the next 100 years. Yes or no? Yes or no? Because the American dollar is going to go to...
No. That's not... Look, the problem is much more complicated than that. It's not as easy as you think. You just use American dollar and then everything... Then you can just buy whatever else and...
Bro, it is. America is literally doing that with Bitcoin right now. They literally are. They're like, this is the thing that we can do the easiest. We should see every...
But you're talking about with private buyers, right? You're talking about with government... Like, the problem you said with the American dollar is that it's in China is controlled by the government, not by the market, right? So that's the problem you're talking about. So all the USD is controlled by the CCP, right? So you're talking about private, hedge fund and people who are buying gold and other assets, right? Rare earth minerals and whatever, like Bitcoins, to hedge this problem. But this is not but you're talking at a government level, which is different. China is not going to do that because it's also using the USD to anchor its other assets as well. So it's actually, look, the point is, right, I think that what we're missing is that America is still going to be standing in 30 years. But it's only going to be the rich people on Wall Street who's going to really have a good life and have a massive influence over politics. Even if America goes another civil war, you guys and people who are the bottom 80%, your opinions don't matter. You don't change Wall Street, right? Silicon Valley, these technocratic, future technocrats, accelerationists, you can't change their minds, right? But what Peter Thiel wants is a cyberpunk city, right? Cyberpunk America, right? That's what he wants. Elon Musk, I think he's going to exile to China in a few years. Mark my prediction. Like his business is all going fucking like going to tank, right? His like car business, like all of this shit, he's gonna go to exile. Like he's most being impacted by actually the war, like tariff trade by America, actually, by Trump. Sorry. So you're gonna see Elon probably gonna jump ship. Like for sure he will jump ship. And that's what China's attracting. The way why China is not like jumping ship at a government level is China's trying to get all the smart people from America to China. That's the plan. Like China is not stupid, right? There's still tons of like, tech people in America, Silicon Valley. That's what China's trying to get. China's trying to get Silicon Valley people while America is attracting more Wall Street people to America. That's the problem. If you look at the S&P 500, the stocks that are carrying American stocks right now, stock market right now, is basically Tesla, Nvidia, like these tech like stocks. But guess what? All these people are not born in the United States. Have you guys noticed that? You don't see like Amazon. I mean, Amazon, yeah, I guess so. Microsoft, Oracle, and whatever. But all these newly really like your stocks that do really well, like they are foreigners, right?
No, just the CEO or one or two of the positions are foreigners, but like most of the structure is still Anglo.
No, they built a company. I mean, like what I'm saying, Tesla is built by
Vivek, sure, right, and Vivek, sure, but they're still, a small percentage, right? Maybe
no. I'm not talking about people born in America. I'm talking about people like Jensen Huang who built Nvidia, like Elon Musk who started like Tesla. I mean, people like them who came to Silicon Valley.
Right, but look, all these other countries, the people have a reason for entrepreneurship. In America, there's no point in being an entrepreneur anymore because all the other companies will buy up all these small companies. So it's actually a regulatory bureaucracy that disincentivizes Americans from being from innovating, right? So until we figure that out, I agree with you. But America has been in handcuffs. You have to realize, it's not because America, right? Correct. So from my perspective, I don't know. This is going to be a shit
That's
show
why
no matter what.
Remember Honju for the last 2 years was trying to go to San Francisco to get funding for his company. And what he told me in person was that he was trying to get rich.
Bro, you know what's the funniest shit? Honju says he's 150 IQ, and you and I know that he should have gone into tech and invested money there. But he started an education company. You know how stupid that is? It's like me starting a piano store in 2025. Nobody fucking plays piano. Right? If he was smart as he claims he is, he should have invested that money into tech apps and startups and been an investor, gotten equity, gambled that way. Or start his own tech company. He didn't do that. Isn't that hilarious? Daniel? Like the smartest 130 IQ dude didn't even know to invest in tech.
Gio, listen to this. This is from usdeclac.org. This is the currency and credit derivatives in 2000 was 89 trillion. Now the total currency and credit derivatives globally is 726 trillion. And then in the year 2000,
a lot of that is bullshit though. Like a lot of that is just inflated, evaluations and appraisals that random people are making and thinking that they have the authority to, and then other people believing them.
Well, then that implies that there's a financial crisis right around the corner.
Just because I tell you my Charizard first edition is worth $1,000 doesn't mean in 20 years, if the entire society goes to shit, that anybody is going to give a fuck about your Charizard. All right? Like, you're thinking that this high appraisal rate of our economy around the world, according to the same people who stand to benefit the most, correct?
Yeah, it's a huge bubble.
Right? Who stand to benefit the most by overinflating their assets that they own. You're like, see, all the rich people's appraisers are saying my mansion is worth $75 trillion. Like, what do you mean it's not? What do you mean my American middle-class house in Kansas is worth $700,000 this summer? Like, what do you mean?
Well, they're saying that the municipal pensions are all going to fail because if there's 3 years of bear market, they won't be able to pay the pensions out. So that means the baby boomers are gonna. Everybody's in a crisis then. Yeah.
Yes. Actually, there's a guy named Mitch Vexler. Look him up. On his company's website, Mockingbird Properties, he's shown you that by going through the Texas County Appraisal Board, who have been raising the property taxes on all his properties for the last 10, 15 years, he's like, all right, you guys want to keep playing this game? I want to know exactly what metric you use to raise the appraisal of my property so that I have to pay more property tax every year. And he went through the legal system in the county courts, the state courts, and then the state Supreme Court. And what he found out through 15 different lawsuits is that there is nothing that they're basing it on in actual metric. They're just making it up as they go because they have budgetary shortfalls in the pension, in the school budget, and all the things that property tax pay for actually. And his estimate is that 30% of people cannot afford their property tax in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Right? He doesn't know when exactly the crash is going to happen, but he's predicting that it will. And if you go to his website, Mockingbird Properties, and click on the DCAD link, he'll show you every legal process. He has spreadsheets, he has tables, he has legal documents from every court that he went to show you, look, these people are literally making up numbers. Because what
in Chicago, the listen to this, the assessor's office is issuing $1,000 checks because the average property tax is up 78%. But guess who they're issuing the $1,000 checks to? South Side people. They're not giving it to white people. They're only issuing checks, $1,000 checks to white people.
The people don't get checks. The people who have businesses don't get checks. It's the least productive Chicagoans who will get checks while your house is right. And then now think about this. Hold up. Now on top of that, you and I know that all the home insurances of the South have left the South over the last 4, 5, 10 years, right? And they're uninsured for flooding anymore. The problem here is what happens when over the next 10, 15 years, there's multiple huge hurricanes in Texas, Louisiana, the East Coast, Florida, etc., and the Gulf of Mexico, where it literally destroys so many homes, and the middle class can't rebuild that home now for $700,000 or $300,000 or $500,000. What are you going to do then? So many of those homes will be put to sale. They're going to move out to the north, right? It's going to make the north more expensive because now they're competing for the market of all the middle class people who lost their homes every year. And now the BlackRock's going to buy out all the homes in the south.
Well, what do you think about inflating the money supply to an insane level where we actually pay off all foreign borrowers?
We should have done that. We should have done that in short periods over the last 100 years. Well, let's say the last 40 years.
You guys should have done that in
We should have
COVID.
done that. Correct. This is
You guys should have done that in COVID, actually.
Correct.
But instead of that, you guys gave all that money to Ukraine. You know how much money?
Right.
Over $100 billion you guys assisted
Well,
to Ukraine.
the first act was
That shit
HEROES
was
Act.
stupid.
That $1 trillion was lost to PPP loan fraud. $1 trillion was lost to Medicare, Medicaid fraud. It's all fraud.
Correct. So if you see this, and now the middle class's generational wealth of having their parents' home carved out, and then on top of that, we won't know how much of them will collapse. So a huge chunk of the middle class who owns homes will no longer own homes.
Yeah,
Now, that's gonna be
three
like
out
a
of
high
10 will
collapse.
have their soul,
Look at the
homes sold because they can't
401k
pay
today.
taxes.
Hold up.
Look at the 401k today. There's nothing there.
Yeah. And then on top of that, we'll have to see what happens when the millennials and the younger generations get all their money from the boomers in the next 5 to 15 years and what they do with that money. That'll be extremely important. Anyone who says that they can predict the future right now, and when people ask for predictions and you're so confident, you shouldn't be that confident because you and I don't know how the millennials with all that access to money that they've never had before, who've been living on ramen for like the last 5-10 years after university,
Over
who are still
teens,
paying on
baby.
their college debts, they're not going to know how to spend their money. They're not going to know how to invest. They're not going to know how to start businesses or own a home. And they're going to have to learn all that, and they're going to waste a lot of money.
You know what's wild is during 2019 when rates went down to 2%, basically, people were so scared that they didn't even pull the trigger and take a mortgage out because they thought everything was cratering.
Yeah. like they're not wrong. It just took a little bit longer because the illusion is so strong, and the illusion, everybody's same illusion, like shared fantasy, is keeping the system alive. Just like the dollar is based on nothing but every American.
No, it's the property taxes. People have to keep working,
Correct.
like you
I
said.
don't disagree
Yeah.
with you. I don't disagree. Yeah, correct. That's the point that I was making earlier. It is the property taxes, but now the teachers union in New Jersey has been squeezing and increasing the property taxes in New Jersey, where they went from one of the lowest property taxes in the 70s and 80s to now one of the highest in the world, country, up to. And they've been draining all the future funds from property taxes from just so that they can get like the best healthcare gold star plan in the country. Right? So now people know how to take advantage of this, like unions and firefighters unions and teachers unions and police unions. They're like, yeah, give me that money. I don't care. I don't care if the budget collapses in 20 years. Give me that money. And you promise that.
Look at that documentary, right? We talked about many times Chinese factory, right? Look how the union played a really important role in, preventing the company being actually run in a way that really benefits the company, right? The revenues.
Yep.
Now, you think about what's going to happen in the future, right? I just wanted to add that, look at the stocks, right? Look at the U.S. stocks right now. You guys have $1 trillion of value just wiped out. That's the bubbles, right? That's not actual value. That's what Gio was talking about.
Correct.
This appraisal problem of America last 30 years, you just saw an avalanche of bubbles being squeezed out of the market, right? And this is slowing down the liquidity of the equity market as well. So this is why I think you actually have to look when you say you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Just that's what I'm saying. Look at this year and look at next year, right? Look at how much revenue you guys are collecting this year because you got the tariff and the tax season just finished, right? Look at this year and next year. If the midterms doesn't go well and if something goes to Trump, he dies or something happens or whatever, or a new war breaks out with Iran. You can really gauge the long-term long-term outlook of U.S. economy. I think the next 2 years is really critical for people to understand where the U.S. economy is heading. This year, just look at the revenues and tax, and next year just look at how much the economy is receding to. Right, we don't know how much America is receding this year, but next year will be way harder.
It's the greed of the rich. It's going to be the infinite greed of the rich that'll make them make stupid decisions. Because if I was a multi-millionaire right now and a multi-billionaire, I would just leave the market. I would take I would leave some money into certain things. I would start creating my own communities, and with people who are low to be of my own religion, right? And literally create cities. You could literally do that. That's the smartest billionaire. Otherwise, all the billionaires are going to be killed by global communism, of the working class, of the fascists, the nationalists, and the communists uniting to kill all the global elites through that pistol. I'm telling you that right now. Right.
Remember that black guy from the South? Yeah. Remember that black guy from the South? He's moving to Portugal with his daughter?
Yeah, but that's not enough. Yeah, but that's retarded middle class moving. One person moving to a small town in the Philippines or Japan is nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally a Catholic billionaire creating a insular community of 20 to 50,000 to 100 people. That's what I'm talking about. Where they have their own ecosystem of a functioning economy. Right? Those billionaires that do that are preparing for the future. Every other billionaire is either going to lose everything or a huge percentage of their valuation. That dollar is going to be worth less in the future. So, they're literally investing into a system which will collapse and it will mean nothing. So, to me, the smartest billionaires are the ones who start buying, goods, materials, right? Creating a sustainable ecosystem. Those are the only ones who are really going to survive, actually, as far as billionaires go. But if there isn't some kind of horizon event that kind of changes this dynamic and kind of lowers the power of the, let's say, global free market capitalists, yeah, it's not going to be pretty. And billionaires are going to have to run away to abandoned islands to survive. Right. So I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know, man. To me, like,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I've been saying for the better of this year is that Trump can actually make America, like the U.S. dollar, strong this year or next year if he attacks Iran, right? If he controls the oil supply of the world, so he's gonna create another like inflationary problem like in a global economy, right? So maybe American can capitalize on that a little bit, but that's stupid as well, right? So that will actually make the demise of America in terms of economics will faster, will hasten the effects of like the global downturn. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that could go on the next
Trump
year.
could have done. Yeah, Trump could have done this so many better ways and different ways, but he's just not smart enough, and he doesn't have the right advisors. Like, imagine he started investing like billions of dollars into companies opening up fracking right now, starting from like 2 months ago. That's the type of shit he should have been doing. Imagine he created a pipeline for the Northeast to get cheaper. No, he just doesn't. But then correct. So, but either way, set the right political climate for that to work. Number two, he has so many problems he's dealing with that he can't focus. And number three, he has to appeal to so many different parts of the Republican Party now. The technocrats, the populists, the Christian nationalists, right? The disaffected liberal and centrists, right? So I don't know, man. You know, if he did those, if he started building nuclear power plants right now, yeah, like that would help a lot. There's so many things he could be doing that I think would be better, and then the libertarians would like suck his dick for doing that, you know, to some degree, because they're like, wow, energy independence, right? So I don't know. That is one of the big ways he could be doing this, by creating. But then America's political atmosphere is so violent. Imagine you created nuclear power plants and then like someone bombs that shit, you know? So you can't anymore now. Like, we're in the worst of every system situation. The worst of capitalism, the worst of socialism, the worst of libertarianism, the worst of like every utopian ideology has mixed into this essentially, and reaction to this is literally, I mean, unfortunately, Marx was right about this. Even though I hate his solution, his like prescriptions on all of this was absolutely true. Absolutely true. It's just that he created like a religious Marxist like reaction to this, which didn't work out either. So.
Yeah, his observations are correct, accurate.
Yeah, very accurate. You know, so unfortunately, I don't know. Like the way out of this liberally would be like, oh, everybody agrees, the upper class and the middle class and the upper middle class all agree to make sacrifices. Yeah, okay, that's really gonna happen. Sure. That's what like liberals really think. Like, oh, if we have to all sacrifice, we will. Like the Great Depression. Not anymore. You won't.
Yeah, I mean, we might see a culture war soon as well, where like the boomers will take their 401k cash out, live in Asia, right? Look at like I don't know, man. Just like
Mexico City. It's already happening. Mexico City, right? Have you heard about Mexico City being taken over by boomers? And then it's increasing the price for everything for the Mexican workers. So now they have to move out further from Mexico City to come work in Mexico City, and the prices for everything has gone up. And the currency is inflated, and the dollar is way stronger. So a U.S. dollar is worth like 10,000 pesos. So then, like, yeah, now the dynamic, the wage disparity or the income disparity between the boomers and the like taco stand owners is so high, right, bro? That's essentially that thing right there is literally the problem we're in.
But the thing is, the Mexicans or the Mexican cartels can take over their property, seize their property. Because look, if remember what Trump, when he was inaugurated, he was talking about striking the border cartels and labeling them as a terrorist group. Now he's sort of trying to pressure Mexico again regarding the cartels again, right? If America goes rogue, right? If economic downturns turns America, I think the cartels or like Mexican government might be emboldened to seize properties of foreign investors in Mexico.
Well, until recently, I would agree with you, but Trump's declaration of them as terrorist groups it's signaling that America might actually start taking the cartel problems seriously. And if they do, it might mean that they're really trying to take down the cartels because they want to turn Mexico into a production country of America, where they do all the cheap manufacturing, and then Texas, let's say, the Texans start doing like the middle upper manufacturing. That's what might actually, that would be the best thing for America, because then you could bring multiple levels of production back to North America. And if you were able to somehow make Central Americans as productive as Mexicans over time, that would contribute to that low manufacturing labor force. That is the only way out of this. For us to have, cheap production, but at the same time, not in China. That is like the only geopolitical way out of this, from my perspective. But the way that Canada's going and destroying their own economy, they might make a run for the money for being our new Mexico into the future if they destroy, and they go this nationalist Canadian route where they want to decouple from America and create a new economy. Hold up. Yeah, correct. So this is another option. So actually, if Canada wants to commit civilizational suicide and then become the Mexico to the north of America, fine. Okay, do you, And when you are so desperate for jobs in 30, 40, 50 years because you realize that you can't replace American consumption and the US dollar coming into Canada with any other group of people in the world, because there isn't 150 consumers and any million consumers using American dollars anywhere else in the world, then Canada is literally committing economic suicide, and they might become the new Mexico of America.
So the issue is that if America, if Canada is going through this, civilization.
Now, hold up. Now, what sounds better? Like, doesn't Trump saying that he just wants to make you a territory of America or the 51st state of America seem so much better as an option now, Daniel?
Exactly.
Yeah. So was he really saying anything harsh? Nope. He was just telling you the future reality of your society if you don't.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it makes absolutely sense that America should take over the whole GDA region, right? The Greater Toronto region.
Yeah, but then the founding fathers were so yes, but a lot of the American politicians during the Monroe Doctrine were stupid, because all they said was like, oh, we don't want Europeans to take over China, right? European colonial countries to take over, not China, South America, Central America. But they left it as a free market. And then China, 100 years, 200 years later, that means we can do business here due to free trade. Oh, Russians maybe we can get it and do that. Well, doesn't that allow foreign countries to come in and do that? So trade is the initial step of domination. Just like the British, just like America.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, when they feel threatened, somebody's trying to punch you or whatever, and you respond with your own, like how you feel you should respond. Like, who's to jump in and say, hey, man, you went too far? I think that's a fair point to make. Like, that dude's head would have never been bashed in if that dude never rode up to his house.
Oh, okay. So you're...
It would never have happened.
Alright, so I guess, you want to be more in the same boat.
Cool.
Maybe the guy.
Look at what? I just said you and her would agree.
Of where he felt like the threat was ceased, and there was no need to proceed further in diminishing